Hello YouTube world, Mac Daddy 191181 here with the Shade Tree Survivalist. This video is going to be on the further modifications I have made to my gear, specifically to my belt order, as well as I want to cover the backpack cover that is also a cape. You may notice around my shoulders, my traps here, that there's been quite a bit of stuff added. Well, part of it is actually attached to the jacket, and you'll see that demonstrated in this video, which I've actually went and did a little bit more work to it since I made that section of the video. But a couple of things that I've modified, or I moved the knife from the shoulder. Now, going back to Alice Part 1, you saw in there, I love that position of the knife, but it pushes the backpack straps out too far, okay, and it really tires me out after a little bit, so we had to do something with that. Still have the one single pouch here for my magazine, for my 45. I may end up doing something else with that. This is not a very versatile system that I have, so for now it'll stay. But what did I do with the knife? Well, I moved it under here onto the belt, but I didn't put it down on my leg because it's just, with the magazine pouches there, it's just too dadgum hard to get at it. I cannot see where the sheath is at, and I'm going to end up stabbing my damn self in the leg. I thought about trying to mount it to the leg holster over here, but it would be a very complicated task, and I'm not sure my sewing machine is quite up to the task. So I got this from the British belt order, the 1956 pattern belt order that they had. They had one of their magazine pouches for the FAL rifle, the FN FAL rifle that they had, which was called the self-loading rifle, SLR, back in the 80s. It had a place on the back side of it you could put your bayonet. Now that would have been hanging way out here on this one, or way out here on that one. So what I did is I turned it broadside, to the belt, and it fit right in between those between the two pouches, and it's just basically tied on there because of this sheath that it is in is easily attached just about any way, shape, or form you want to do it. I thought about attaching it to my leg. I thought about reattaching it to the left leg, and I was not happy or satisfied with any of it. If I had to drop the gear to shit and get, all I gotta do is cut that one string, okay, and it'll just pop right off, just as pretty as you please. So I don't think it will slow me down that much if I had to drop the gear and run for my life, basically. You know, I'm out of ammunition, whatever case may be, and you've got to travel as light as possible and really put the hammer down. One of the other modifications is I've added this hump to my left shoulder to help distort the outline of the shoulder, to make it look, you know, because you've got the sloping, your shoulders, you know, they slope and round off on the corners. Well, I wanted a hump there to make it visually even more distorted. The other thing I've done is, okay, I made the backpack cover, and the entire time, and you may have noticed it in the videos, or you may not have seen it, but the entire time when I was not wearing the backpack, I had a cape, okay? And here it is. And basically what I did that for is to break up and to hide the shapes of the canteens, the belt, the rear of the strap. You got that long single strap on this particular set of harnesses that's straight. And I could add a camouflage to it, but you're still going to have a straight line going up the back, and that's a dead giveaway. And I wanted to add it to enhance it as much as possible, to get rid of that very familiar shape of the canteen cover and the canteen itself. So I just added this to it, and all it is the only thing that it has to be done to attach it is I took, and this is funny, I had this portable DVD player that I had in the Mac when I was still trucking, as well as in the company truck, the company Mac that I was driving for CT when I was driving for them. But it had all these fancy straps. you know, so you can suspend it between the seats like in a minivan or in a car. Well, I didn't need that in my truck. So I sacrificed one of these straps, and I just took these little cheesy little plastic hooks, and I'm using them to attach it to the metal D-ring that is right here on the harness. I reckon you can see that. It's so bright out here I can't tell what the camera's seeing. All you gotta do is just clip it on. There's one on each side. Now the one on the left side, because of that ammo pouch, it's a little bit more, it takes just a moment longer. But I also added a piece of camouflage cloth to that'll hang right down over it to help disguise it. Adds even more camouflage effect to it. But let's see how effective it is just right here in the yard without any personal camouflage added for what I've done so far with the shoulder. And you know, with the cape up here as high as it is, it helps also to distort the shoulders. Remember, like I said in the Art of Camouflage, the finale, the head, neck, and shoulders and arms will give you away faster than anything else, because that's the first image you see and most recognizable image you know. All right. And there you go. Get it all pulled down like it should be. Now I don't have my gloves on. I'm not going to go into that much detail. All right, do you understand now? I mean, and hell, I got that brightness right behind the shoulder there, so it's not really helping. But okay, how about that? You understand? It's helping it break up that shoulder. But of course, you'd still want to go back and add personal camouflage to it. On this side, instead of adding a hump or anything like that, because I want one shoulder that's clean where I can just dump the backpack off or whatever the case may be. But this side here, I've added a loop in it. If I can find it, right here it is. This loop here is going to move the vegetation from so close to my face like it was in the videos. I noticed that was a mistake because the vertical camouflage I'd attached to the harness was right next to my damn head. That's not doing you any good. It's just making you got a blockhead. You look like Predator when he was in his camouflage mode with that big freaking head. Didn't want that. So I added this in order to put the camouflage, the vegetation out here away from the head a little more, but you know, gives it more room to open out and to conceal that shoulder. I don't want both shoulders the same. I want it, you know, an optical illusion. You know, if you have a pattern there, they can find you. Of course, on this side, I'd still add personal camouflage to vegetation, but it helps a hell of a lot. Now, while I'm out here, while I'm thinking about it, I forgot to tell you guys about a couple other things, a couple other aspects of camouflage in that video. One of them is your heat signature, all right, your thermal image. There are sites out there that you can purchase and that the military have, especially on these damn drones everybody's worried about, including me, that can see through fog, through rain, through freaking snow to a degree, because it picks up your thermal image, your radiant heat, okay, from your body. Well, not your radiant heat, but your body heat. And it can see through all these different things. Now, it can't see through solid objects as of yet, unless it's supposed to be an abandoned barn or an outbuilding or a cave or whatever, and it's radiating heat because you have a fire in there. Okay, now these are things you have to think about. If you're leaning against a wall, all right, and you warm that wall up just a few degrees more than the surrounding wall, they'll know right where you are standing. Okay, so your thermal image is something you really need to think about. And then, of course, there's night vision, which enhances the ambient light that is already there from the stars, street lights, the moon, car headlamps, whatever the case may be. It enhances it, increases it, and gives those guys night vision capability. And of course, there's one more thing, one more aspect of camouflage. We've already covered noise discipline, but you have to think about your smell. Why? What if they're using dogs to track you? Okay, there are techniques to fool dogs. so you should study up on those techniques. There are ways to mask your scent and or eliminate your scent. You can either eliminate the scent by using chemicals to clean your clothes and wipe yourself down. That will completely eliminate your human odor. Or you can mask your odor by using such things as the hunters do. The deer, the doe urine, and the musk, and so forth. That is something you really have to think about also. The whole point of prepping, all right, is to be prepared for a situation that may arise. All right, now there are a lot of guys and gals out there a hell of a lot better prepared than we are as far as food, garden, you know, for long-term sustainability as far as your food and water and so forth. But very few of them have really thought about the tactical situation that they may find themselves in a situation with there's no rule of law, without rule of law, or worst case scenario, a huge natural disaster in their area and they have to survive for weeks without any help, or a tyrannical government. Now, this last election shows that our American system is still working to a degree. But even the Republicans are scumbags. So you got to watch out. You got to make sure you guys stay in contact with your representatives and so forth. But that's getting off topic. Think about this. Prepare for this. All that wonderful tactical gear is useless if they see you and shoot the shit out of you before you even know they're there. 10-4 Roger. Please continue to watch, and y'all have some close-up information on the different aspects of the modifications I have done to the gear. Okay, the jacket. I wanted to overall just basically break up the outline of the pockets, because like I said in one of my videos, and trying to remember all the titles is impossible for me, but I wanted to break it up but not overdo it to the point it's going to interfere with the gear. And so I just took the burlap and I had hand sew every single bit of this with a needle and thread, around the pockets, that is. And then when I got down here I could use the sewing machine, but I was at work, I had all the time in the world on my hands, and it was before Camo broke out the sewing machine. And so I think most of this I stitched by hand. Yes, I did. And you know, just to break it up and make it where it wasn't just one solid pattern. Later on I came in and I've dulled down some of the brighter colors, added some brown, shoe polished it. Once it dries, it is a stain, okay? You don't smell it anymore. It doesn't wash out real easy because it's basically a stain, and it worked really good. Also added some of the stain to the fake grass that I made here. Sewed a piece all the way around the collar. Added some fringe, if you want to call it that, to the ends of the collar to break up that shape, because you don't want that shape. I've still got some work I want to do to it, but it has worked out really well in the videos. I've cut out some pieces of camouflage material in odd shapes, and I put them on here. I've also added some loops so I could actually add vegetation to it. And you know, the other day when I did the video, I forgot about this loop here and this loop here, and I felt like kicking myself after it was all over with, but it still came out really well. As you've seen earlier in the video, I did not like the way the shoulders were still apparent to me, and that had to go. Had to do something about it. And because of the way the straps land on my trapezoids up here, the muscles that connect from your neck to your shoulder, I had to do something else about it. So I went in and I made another loop. And all you got to do to make a little loop like this, if you don't have any more webbing, any strap material, is just take a square piece of fabric, camouflage fabric or whatever, fold it in half, sew it up to make it into a loop, and then sew it to the jacket. The pants, because the way our machine is designed, it's an older machine, it's in the actual wooden cabinet, you cannot stick the leg down to the machine, so I have to hand sew all it. But the jacket's a lot easier to work with because you can open it out lay it up on the machine and sew it. The left shoulder, as I demonstrated in the video earlier, you've got, I made this one big piece out of a piece of camouflage material and a bigger, larger piece of burlap, and I made it wrinkled up so it's not a uniform shape. And then I took some styrofoam. Matter of fact, it's the same styrofoam that I used to pad the belt, and I pushed under and I sewed it so it wouldn't move around too much. Now I noticed that it slid a little bit too far to the rear of the shoulder, and I've got to go in and add a couple more stitches to keep it pushed up on top of the shoulder. So you've got that lump there that breaks up that familiar outline. But yeah, most of this, or matter of fact, all of it on the arms, I had to use the needle and thread, and I've only sewn it in places. And so I've got to go back and finish that stitch all the way around, otherwise it will eventually come apart. This is very cheap burlap. I'll just put it to you that way. This is not high quality burlap like you would get from a ground sheet or a tobacco sheet. If you live down here in the south, especially southeast Georgia, where I'm from, tobacco is a huge crop for the farmers, and they make this really heavy duty industrial burlap that has a much tighter weave, much thicker thread, and it would do a whole lot better than this, and you could buy it a whole lot cheaper as far as by volume, because you get a huge volume for not nearly as much money. But you can see I've also cut out a random shape, not necessarily a leaf shape, but a random shape, and I've sewn it directly to the outside of it, and it just you know, it gives you that 3D effect. And some of it, and this one here I did not do it, I think it's on the backpack cover. On the back side of it, I added either black or I added brown shoe polish to it also to stain it so it wouldn't be that bright color there. But it has worked out really, really nice. Like I said, I'm not done yet. I really want to add some more around the sleeves, but I want it to make absolutely sure it's not going to interfere with the action of the rifle. Definitely don't want it to interfere with the action of your rifle. If you decide to do this, use a the thicker woodland camouflage pattern, the thicker material. Okay, I've got this one, and I've got a jungle ripstop version, and the jungle ripstop is very thin material to keep, you know, so you don't get so hot. But if you're going to go through the effort of doing all this, you want to use the thicker material, because otherwise that ripstop, it may be called ripstop, it is thin, and it will wear out really fast, and then you're going to have holes and it's going to tear, and then you're back to square one. Okay, a quick note on the differences in burlap. Okay, this is the camouflage burlap that you can buy at Wally World, Walmart, Kmart, wherever. Probably any sporting goods store that sells hunting supplies. Okay, and you can buy it as a screen to camouflage you, to be, you know, to get behind when you're hunting, so you can move around a little bit and the animals won't see you. But you can see out. You can also cover your scope lens, the objective lens, with this stuff, and you can see right through it pretty as the day is long, no problem. Okay, but it's very, well, you can see the squares and all in it. It's very open. This is real burlap right here. Okay, you see how tightly woven it is, how much thicker the threads are. Got that off a tobacco sheet back years and years ago. Wonderful stuff. Wish I could lay my hands on some, and if I ever do, I'm probably going to do a complete new set for my gear. We'll just have to wait and see. But you can see here, I've dulled that down with shoe polish also, and I've added it to some of the fake grass. Okay, so it looks more like pine straw. I'm not finished with it, but that's what I have to this point. Here's some more of that wonderful heavy duty burlap. Just some pointers. I added some brown to the top of the hat. Still think I'm going to add more. I'm not sure about that yet. I also used some the camouflage material, and when it's hanging off the back of my, you know, the strings come down, and it really helps blend in really, really well. Okay, the boots. You can see the upper still, how bright that is. I mean, it's ridiculous. It will give you away in the terrain I'm in, just like that. Do not want that. So what I did to dull it down is I used brown. I got two different browns here. I've got the Shine Right from the Dollar General brand, brown shoe polish, some Turtle Wax brown shoe polish, and some Kiwi, which I've used Kiwi all my life. Good stuff. And I just went in there and I broke it up, and it works great. And the thing is it's not paint. It won't crack and break and bust up as your shoe is, or your boot is flexing. But these are, like I said, these are suede boots, so it's a real rough texture. Takes it really well, and I mean, just did an outstanding job. But that left me with one other problem, and that is the eyelets and the strings. The strings are not much of a problem. You can use various colored markers, permanent markers, or you can use the polish itself to break up the strings, you know, make an alternating pattern. But it still left the eyelets, and I didn't want to paint it because it'll just come right off. So I took some camouflage material and I just laced it into it, and I cut holes in it, and you know, it's not flat. You know, I stained the back sides of it with different colors, and oh man, it worked out really, really well. But that's all you got to do if you have a suede type boot, or one that has this cordura, you know, on the sides of it. You can take an old jungle boot or any other boot and sand down the sand the polished surface off of it and rough it up, and you can go back with the separate colors and you can use it also. But like I said, the eyelets are going to give you away. You need to do something about that. You can also unlace your boot to a degree and add natural foliage, lace it back up, and the laces will hold it in place. But you have to do something with that color on the laces. I do not tuck my pants legs into the boots anymore. It looks really sharp on the drill field, but out in the forest it ain't worth a damn, and the shape of the boot will give you away. So I leave the pants outside the boot, and so I didn't color the top of it. I may go back and do that before it's all over with, but that's how I did that. And here's the backpack cover, as well as cape. And right now it is simply laying on top of the gear, covering it up. And as I showed you earlier, it's got the two straps, and here it is one side. You can see I've got camouflage cover over it also, and that's where it hooks on the little D-ring. I found that taking it off before we put the gear on, and then adding it to, you know, hooking it to the gear after I've got the belt order on is a whole lot easier than trying to put it on with it attached to the gear. The other thing is if you'll remember my Fight, Sustain, Survive, I think, or maybe it's Survive, Fight, well, hell, I don't remember the damn title now, but anywho, in that particular video, I was talking about if you had to drop your web gear and your possibly your rifle in order to be able to make an escape, you could possibly hide it. Well, this can make an excellent cover for it, and it breaks up that familiar pile of gear. Web gear's web gear, no matter where you're at in the world. All of them have straps, a belt of some type, or a vest, or whatever the case may be. And if you can break up that familiar outline, maybe they don't find it so easy. But I've got it attached to the straps with these two straps, and then I've got little loops sewn all over the back so I can add additional camouflage to it. And I've also added, I was talking about the shoe polish in different videos, but I've added it to make it dirtier looking and not so, you know, stand out so well. But that's the cape / backpack cover. It wasn't too hard to make. I cut the sleeves off, or I took the sleeves off, of course, for the to make the rifle sleeve, as well as this other one was shredded. So when I took it off, I used that material to make the loops as well as the solid piece, which is not on this jacket, it's on my other jacket, and I've already taken it inside, but I've used it to sew the burlap to some of the material and then add that material to the different parts of the gear. But there you go. This is Mac Daddy 1911A1 with the Shade Tree Survivalist. I hope some way, shape, or form this video helps in your preparations. Thank you very much for watching.